You know that feeling when you scroll through social media and you see these day-in-the-life videos of supposed multimillionaires? It is always high-octane chaos. They are waking up at 3 in the morning to take an ice bath. Then they are screaming into a headset while trading crypto, jumping on a private jet to Dubai for lunch, and closing million-dollar deals while bench pressing 400 pounds. It is exhausting. It is overwhelming. And it makes you feel like, if that is what it takes to be rich, you might as well just stay in bed and eat a bagel. It creates this deep, sinking feeling in your gut that you just don't have the energy, or the personality, or the sheer manic drive to build wealth. You look at your own life, your 9 to 5, your moderate coffee habit, your desire to actually sleep 8 hours, and you think, well, I guess I'm out. It feels like a cosmic conspiracy where the entry fee for financial freedom is selling your soul to the hustle culture gods. You feel defeated before you even start, because the contrast between your normal, somewhat quiet life and that performative wealth is just too massive. But here is the thing that might make you laugh, or maybe cry if you have bought any of those Hustle University courses. That version of wealth? It is mostly fake. It is a performance. It is content designed to keep you clicking, not a roadmap to keep you wealthy. The truth, the brutal, unsexy truth that nobody puts on TikTok because it gets 0 views, is that real, sustainable, dynastic wealth is incredibly boring. It is almost painfully dull. If you watched a day in the life of a real millionaire next door, you would fall asleep. It would be a guy driving a 5-year-old Toyota, making a sandwich, checking his email, and reading a book. Real wealth isn't built by screaming at charts or taking ice baths. It is built by adopting a set of habits that are so mundane, so stupidly simple, that most people ignore them because they think, that can't be it. But today, we are going to look at the 7 boring habits that the actual wealthy use to build empires quietly. We are going to look at the math that proves why boring beats exciting every single time. We are going to talk about rewiring your brain to crave stability over dopamine. I am Ryan, and welcome to Finance with Ryan. Let's make boring the new rich. We need to reframe the problem because we have been sold a lie about what action looks like. We are addicted to the idea that for a result to be big, the effort must be loud. We think that to get $1 million outcome, we need $1 million struggle. This is the contrast principle working against us. We contrast our boring savings deposits with the flashy wins we see in movies, the Wolf of Wall Street moments, and our efforts feel insignificant. So we stop. We think, what is the point of saving this $500? But let's look at the psychology here. It basically means there is a line where being careful and boring switches from looking like fear to looking like genius. Most people live in a cycle of high stimulation and high spending. They get paid, they get excited, they spend. It is a dopamine loop. The wealthy, and I mean the ones who keep their money, not the ones who blow it, have rewired their brains. They don't get dopamine from spending, they get dopamine from security. They found that the most common vehicle for millionaires wasn't a Ferrari or a Lambo. It was a Ford F-150 pickup truck. Why? Because these people aren't trying to impress you. They are trying to optimize their utility. They are pragmatic. They are boring. We have to understand that excitement in investing is usually a sign that you are gambling. If your heart is racing when you make a financial decision, you are probably doing something stupid. Real investing should feel like watching paint dry. It should be mechanical. So when we see a hot stock or a new crypto, we feel like we have to jump on it or we will miss out forever. That is fear driving the bus. So the boring investor protects their capital like a bulldog. They don't chase the shiny object. They stick to the boring plan because they know the plan works. We are going to flip the script. The habits we are about to talk about, things like automating your cash flow or waiting 24 hours before buying something, they sound trivial, but they act like a lever. A small amount of force, applied consistently over a long period, moves mountains. The secret is that there is no secret. There is just math, time, and the ability to sit on your hands when everyone else is losing their minds. Let's get into the mathematical proof, because I want you to see exactly how these boring habits translate into insane numbers. We are going to look at real scenarios. Let's take boring habit number 1, the pay yourself first automation. Most people pay their bills, spend their money, and save what is left. Spoiler alert, nothing is ever left. The boring habit is setting up an automatic transfer that hits your account the morning of payday, moving 20% of your income to an investment account before you even wake up. Let's say you make $60,000 a year. You automate $500 a month into a boring S&P 500 index fund. You never see this money. You learn to live without it. Over 30 years, assuming an 8% return, you contributed $180,000. The account is worth roughly $750,000. The boring habit of clicking auto transfer once created over $500,000 of free money. Now compare that to the exciting trader who tries to time the market. Data shows the average active investor earns significantly less, often around 3 or 4%, because they buy high and sell low out of panic. At 4%, that same investment is worth only $350,000. Being boring and automated literally doubled your wealth. That is the acceleration framing. The lazy path is twice as profitable. Let's look at boring habit number 2, the 24-hour rule. This is simply waiting 24 hours before buying anything non-essential over $50. $100 a week is $5,200 a year. If you invest that $5,200 instead of spending it on clutter, in 10 years, that is nearly $80,000. In 20 years, that is nearly $250,000. $250,000. Just for waiting a day to see if you still wanted the thing. Most of the time, you don't. That pause button is worth a Ferrari. How about boring habit number 3? Tax loss, harvesting, and fee optimization. This sounds like something an accountant does in a basement, but it is huge. On a $500,000 portfolio, that is $5,000 a year. Over 20 years, that fee drags your returns down massively. If you switch to a boring, low-cost index fund with a 0.03% fee, you save almost that entire 1%. Compounded over 30 years on a growing portfolio, the difference between paying 1% fees and 0 fees can be hundreds of thousands of dollars. It is the fairness principle. Why should a manager get a third of your retirement for doing nothing? The boring habit of checking expense ratios keeps that money in your pocket. Let's talk about boring habit number 4. Living on last month's income. This creates a buffer. It stops you from going into debt when a bill hits. The math of debt is brutal. If you carry a $5,000 credit card balance at 20% interest, you are paying $1,000 a year just in interest. By having the boring cash buffer, you avoid that interest. Over a lifetime, the average American pays hundreds of thousands of dollars in interest. The boring habit of liquidity captures that money for you. These aren't sexy numbers in the short term. Saving $5 here, avoiding a fee there. It feels slow. But apply the goal gradient effect. The first 100,000 is a grind. It takes years. But because you aren't bleeding money to fees, interest, and impulse buys, you get there faster. And once you hit that critical mass, the compounding goes vertical. The boring habits are the fuel that lets the rocket actually leave the atmosphere. Now the math is the easy part. The hard part, the part that actually makes you sweat, is the psychological shift. You have to undergo a complete identity shift. A consumer sees money as a solution to boredom. A capital allocator sees money as an employee. This dollar is a worker. If I send it away to buy a coffee, I fired it. This brings us to boring habit number 5, ignoring the Joneses. This is pure psychological warfare. We are wired to compare ourselves to our tribe. If your neighbor gets a new Tesla, your brain screams, "We are falling behind." It is ridiculous, but it is primal. I want to give you a before versus after of this mindset. Before, you get a raise. You think, yes. You upgrade your lifestyle immediately. Your savings rate stays the same, near zero. You feel good for a month, then the hedonic treadmill kicks in, and you are just as stressed as before, but with higher bills. After, you get a raise. You think, yes. You don't tell anyone. You keep your old apartment. You keep driving the Honda. You take that entire raise and funnel it into your automated investment account. You feel a smug sense of satisfaction. You know something they don't. You are building a trap door to escape the rat race. This requires boring habit number 6, continuous, boring learning. I don't mean watching hype videos. I mean reading books, reading annual reports, understanding tax code. The wealthy read, the poor watch TV. It sounds cliché, but it is true. When you adopt the identity of a learner, you realize that buying a $50 book that teaches you how to negotiate your salary is a better investment than a $50 dinner. You start getting dopamine from knowing things, not buying things. And finally, boring habit number 7, the annual net worth audit. This is the only score that matters. Most people obsess over their salary. But if you spend $105K, you are broke. The boring habit is tracking your net worth, assets minus liabilities, once a quarter or once a year. This shifts your focus from income, which is taxable and fleeting, to wealth, which is permanent and powerful. When you see that number go up, it reinforces the other habits. It creates a positive feedback loop. You start to love the boredom. You start to crave the silence of compounding. It is about discipline, but not the willpower kind of discipline where you are white-knuckling it every day. It is the discipline of systems. You set up the boring habits once, and then you just let them run. You become a passenger in your own wealth-building machine. So what are the practical implications of living this boring life? It leads to what I call the fortress of solitude effect. When you have these habits dialing in, automation, frugality, learning, debt avoidance, you build a fortress around your life. This gives you the ultimate BATNA, best alternative to a negotiated agreement. Most people have no BATNA in life. If their boss screams at them, they have to take it. If their landlord raises the rent, they have to pay it. They have no leverage because they are living paycheck to paycheck. But you, the boring investor? You have 6 months of expenses in a high-yield savings account. Boring. You have a portfolio that generates dividends. Boring. You have low fixed costs because you didn't buy the McMansion. Boring. This changes your energy. You walk into work differently. You negotiate differently. When you don't need the deals come to you. It is the irony of wealth. Money runs from people who are desperate for it and flows to people who have their act together. You stop spending money on status signals. You start spending money on time and health. You might pay for a house cleaner so you can read more. You might pay for higher quality food so you have more energy to work. It is the Vimes boots theory, buying the $50 boots that last 10 years instead of the $10 boots that break every month. The wealthy can afford to be boring and efficient. The poor are trapped in a cycle of expensive inefficiency. These habits create a positive feedback loop. Because you have a cash buffer, you don't stress when the car breaks down. Because you don't stress, you perform better at work. Because you perform better, you get a bonus. Because you have automated investing, that bonus instantly goes to work for you. It spirals upward. Meanwhile, the person with the exciting habits, the flashy car, the credit card debt, spirals downward. One emergency sends them into a panic. They make bad decisions. They take out high-interest loans, and they dig the hole deeper. Boring habits are the safety net that catches you and the trampoline that launches you. Now, I have to give you a serious warning. There is a specific danger zone that hits when these habits start working. You have been boring for 3 years. You have saved your first $100,000. The snowball is rolling, and you get bored, like really bored. You look at your account and think, this is great, but it's so slow. You say, I've been good. This is the poison. This is the siren song that crashes the ship right before it reaches the island. The opportunity cost of breaking the chain in the middle of the compounding curve is devastating. If you inflate your lifestyle to match your new wealth, you are just running on a faster treadmill. You haven't actually gone anywhere. You have to compare the fleeting joy of the purchase with the permanent joy of freedom. Is that $80,000 truck worth 3 more years of mandatory labor? Is it worth missing your kids' soccer games because you have to work overtime to pay for the insurance? It is designed to make you feel inadequate, so you buy things to fill the hole. You have to be vigilant. Wealth is what you don't spend. Wealth is the money that stays in the pot. If you spend it, you are no longer wealthy. You are just a person with a lot of stuff. Don't let the boredom trick you into blowing it up. The boredom is the point. The boredom is the sign that it is working. If your financial life is exciting, you are doing it wrong. If your financial life is boring, you are on the path to freedom. Look, I know this isn't the flashy advice you get from the gurus. Stop buying lattes and automate your savings isn't going to break the internet. Read a book and wait 24 hours isn't a viral hashtag, but it is the truth. The 7 boring habits, automating, the 24-hour rule, tax optimization, living on last month's income, ignoring the Joneses, continuous learning, and net worth tracking. These are the stones that build the pyramid. They are unglamorous, they are heavy, they are slow, but once that pyramid is built, it stands for thousands of years. The transformation happens when you stop seeking entertainment from your money and start seeking results. It happens when you look at the exciting life of the broke consumer and you feel pity. You don't feel envy anymore. You feel relief that you aren't on that roller coaster. So here is my challenge to you. Pick one boring habit. Just one. Maybe it is setting up that $50 auto transfer. Maybe it is waiting 24 hours before you buy that thing in your Amazon cart right now. Start building that foundation today. Embrace the boredom. Love the boredom. Because in 10 years, when you are sitting on a mountain of boring wealth, having the freedom to do whatever you want with your time, that is going to be the most exciting feeling in the world. Thanks for watching Finance with Ryan. If you are ready to be boring and rich, smash the like button. It is the most exciting thing you'll do all day. I will see you in the next one.